This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Baruchim Abayim, welcome everyone to a special edition of All Parsha, Parshas Noach, the Ramban. On Parshas Noach, I would like to share with you a number of fundamental points from the Ramban on the narrative of Noach going into the Teva. Firstly, the Ramban notes in Perek Vav Pasuk Yutes that the pasuk says, "Mikol hachai, mikol basar, shenayim, mikol tavi el hateva." You, Noach, you should bring to the teva. And in the pasuk Yutes, in the next pasuk, it says, "Mikol remes adam limneo, shnayim mikol yavayu." They will come to you. So it seems like a contradiction. Should Noach bring the animals to the teva, or will the animals come to Noach? And the Ramban explains on Pasuk Yotes, Tavi al hateva l'hachiyos itach, tzivahu, Hashem commanded Noach, she'yisasek v'yazar oisam hu b'chnisasam hateva. When it says he should bring them, what that means is, as Ramban is going to explain in the next piece, they will come to him, but once they do come to him, he is charged to be involved in helping the animals enter the teva, v'yishtadu b'hem, and make efforts with them, she'yichyu, that they should be given the opportunity to live, as Noach will make efforts to save his own soul. So, what the Ramban is saying is that both are true. The animals will come to Noach, but once they do come, Noach is in charge of making sure the animals are facilitated into the teva. And the Ramban continues on Pasuk Chav, Shnayim mikol yavayu elech l'achiyos, ha'idiyai, he is making known to Noach, ki meyatzim yavayu levanim shnayim shnayim, they will come to him on their own, 2 by 2, v'lo yitzarchu latzarasam, he will not have to trap them, v'haram uva'iyim, in the mountains and the islands, v'hu yiviyim, ba'teva achreichin, he will then bring them to the teva afterward. Now, the Ramban deals with a contradiction, Rashi also deals with, but Rashi deals with it differently. Namely, when the pasuk says in that they will come to Noach, it says, Shnayim mikol yavayu elecha lahachiyos, that 2 of each species would come to Noach. But later on, the psukim say that Noach should take 7 of the kosher animals. And Pasuk Beis in the next parak, Mikal b'hem haTorah tikach shiva shiva. So is Noach supposed to take 2, or is he supposed to take 7? So Rashi learns that when Noach is told to take 2, it means a minimum of 2. But some types of animals, Noach will have to bring 7 of them. Rashi learns 2 is a minimum. The Ramban disagrees. Says the Ramban, Uvamasa piresh. When the event occurred, the Torah explains Shabo Zachar Nekeva, that they came, male and female. V'zeh haya b'chlam. This was a general principle, meaning all animals, they came to Noach, male and female, without exception. Not less and not more. In terms of the animals that came to Noach, it was 2 a pair. It was a pair for each species. However, then Noach was told that he has to have a total of 7 kosher animals. And the additional 6 for each kosher animal, Noach had to bring on his own. So Noach is told, Acharich, and afterwards, Sivohu, he was commanded, Sheikach mikol behema tahira, that he take from every kosher animal, Shiva, 7 male and female. Uve'ela lo yamar she'yavayu elav. These kosher animals, he was not told they would come to him. Ela shehu yikach haisam. He would have to take them. Ki haboim lihi notzel ulachayis lahem zera. The ones, the 1 pair, male and female, that came merely to remain alive and to propagate and to continue the species, ba melim, they came on their own. But those additional animals from kosher animals that Noach needed to bring karbanos, those animals Noach had to bring himself. Aval habam li karbanos, the animals that Noach would bring karbanos from, lo gazar sheyavayu me'atzmam li shachet. Hashem did not decree that they would come on their own to be slaughtered. God didn't say that the animals would come on their own to be shechted. Aval l'kacham Noach, those additional ones Noach had to take. So in contradistinction to Rashi, who says 2 means a minimum of 2, and some animals he had to take 7, the Ramban learns exactly 2 came to Noach. The additional ones Noach had to bring. The additional command of 7:7 was so that Noach should be able to bring karbanos. Now, what does it mean hatahira? Noach was told, bring the tahar animals. How's Noach supposed to know what tahar is? Well, there are no chumashim. The Torah wasn't given. How is Noach supposed to know what the definition of tahar is? So Rashi, as we're familiar, says from here we see Noach learn Torah, but the Ramban says al pi pshat v'tam haTorah, the meaning of tahar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pirish le'simanei haTorah. God explained what tahar means. Animals that chew their cud has split hooves, fins and scales. That's what tahar means, but it's not recorded in the Chumash, but God explained it to Noach. The Torah says it briefly. Loimer haTorah, the pure ones. Al pi haTorah, that which we know from later is tahar. Hashem told Noach. But Rashi explains Eshasili is Torah Yisrael. That those animals which are destined to be tar for the Jewish people. Malamed Shalom at Noach Torah. From here we learn that Noach learned Torah. Okay, now the Ramban says there's a halachic point that we learn from this pasuk. V'nei mikan shloi huchshu b'karbanos b'nei Noach ela behema tar va'oiv tahar. From here we see that the only species, the only types of animals that are acceptable to be brought as karbanos for b'nei Noach are only kosher animals and kosher birds. From the fact that Noach was told to take kosher animals to bring karbanos, we see that for b'nei Noach to bring karbanos, it has to be from kosher animals. V'chein amar b'hevel. Likewise, we find by Hevel, mi b'choyrois tzoynoi mechal vehen. He brought from the firstborn of his sheep and their fat. Aval kol haminin atoim kshirim b'hem. However, the Ramban adds that when it comes to b'nei Noach, they have a wider variety to choose from than Yisraelim do. Namely, when it comes to Goyim, any kosher species of animal is acceptable to be brought as a carbon. K'dechsiv, vayikach mikol habehema hatohira mikol ha'oif hatar vayal oilos b'mizbeach. While Yisraelim could only bring from bakar, tzoin, kavasim, and izim, B'nai Noach could bring from all kosher animals. They could bring from any kosher behema and any kosher oif, not just Tairim and B'nai Yoina, but because the pasuk says Noach took from all the behema hatahira and from all the oif hatahar, and he brought oilos b'mizbeach v'hoisef li Yisrael b'mitzvah, and an added mitzvah was given to Klal Yisrael, sheyu kol karbanosam min habaka, that all of their karbanos should be from cattle, umin atzoin, and from sheep, min hatorim, from turtles, umin b'nei yoin, and from pigeons. Okay, now the Ramban makes another point. Namely, don't say that in Pasuk Gimel, when it says that Noach brought 7 pairs of birds, that in contradistinction to animals, that he only brought 7 pairs of the kosher animals, he brought 7 pairs of all birds. No, the Ramban explains that V'tam Gamei Oif Hashemim, the meaning of Gamei Oif Hashemim, it's going on hatahar, it's going on the kosher animals. Ki hakasim nimshach lamala, the pasuk is a continuation of what was said above in the pasuk before, namely the kosher animals. Now the Ramban has, Perek Zayin pasuk Aleph, a very important diuk. If you're paying attention to the nuances of the psukim regarding the Mabul, the name for God which is employed each time is Elokim, Midas Adin. The very end of Bereshis, when God decided He would destroy the world, the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem emches ha'adam," and there the Ramban comments that there's a soid, there's a great soid, whose soid gadol lo nitan likasav. There's a great secret that's not warranted to be written. Why? There, Hashem's name is written as Shem Havaya, while in the rest of the Mabul, it's the Shem Elokim. Furthermore, here we also have a discrepancy. In Perek Zayin, it says, Vayomer Hashem leNoach. The Shem Havaya said to Noach. Why here does it switch to Shem Havaya? Says Ramban, Vayomer Hashem leNoach, Haidiyai Hashem. Hashem made known the name of Havaya, Ki b'midas rachamim. God was explaining that the reason why Noach would be saved was because of the attribute of mercy. Yemalei Oisai, he would save him, Ve'asbeisa, in his household. V'chaya mehem zera l'doros. Not only that, but he would be able to propagate descendants and future generations. V'zetam, that's why in Pasuk Gimel it says, L'chayo zera al pnei chol haaretz. That not only would Noach survive, but he would be able to continue on mankind. Ki mitchila amar, at first God just said, L'hachayos itach, you and your family will survive. But then Hashem added, after introducing the Shem Havaya, that Hashem is saying, I'm having mercy on you, Noach. And now not only will you survive, but your descendants will survive as well. And now the Ramban reveals a great secret. In the association and the context of Karbanos in Vayikra, there too, the Shem Elokim is not mentioned, only the Shem Havaya. And since now God is telling Noach, don't just bring in animals to propagate, but you're going to bring in kosher animals for Karbanos, and that's why you're going to survive. So in the context of Karbanos, like in Vayikra, where only the Shem Havaya is used, here too, in the context of the Karbanos, the Shem Havaya is employed. Says the Ramban, V'ramaz la'ata. God is hinting to Noach, b'midas rachamim, in the attribute of mercy ala karban, regarding the sacrifices, lahidia oisai, to make it known to him, sheyisha el karbane, that indeed God will turn to Noach's carbon, uvischus karbanai, and then the merit of Noach's carbon, yikayim ha'olam, the world will be maintained, v'layikares oid mipnei mei hamabel, will never be cut off again because of the waters of the Mabel. V'alkein mazgir by Hashem hamyucha. Therefore, in this context of where Hashem is commanding Noach to bring 7 species in order to bring karbanos, the Shem Havaya appears, ki b'chol inyan ha-karbanos, because in the whole subject of karbanos, lo yazgir Elokim, the Shem Elokim does not appear, ka'asher azgir, as I will speak at greater length, b'hagi l'sham ezus Hashem. When I reach the subject of karbanos, there the Ramban will explain in greater detail why the Shem Havaya specifically is associated with karbanos and not the Shem Elokim. Okay, so we learned the Ramban's interpretation of 2 and 7, 2 meaning 2 specifically came to Noach to propagate the world. The additional ones that Noach had to bring karbanos, he had to bring. We explained the halacha that Bnei Noach could bring karbanos from any kosher animals as opposed to Yisraelim that only bakar tzayin, izim, toirim, bnei yaina. We explained there were 2 commands to Noach. Number 1, the animals would come to him, but number 2, he would then have to bring them into the teva. And finally, why the Shem Havaya is employed over here to teach Noach that he was surviving because of the midas harachamim of Hashem, and that's why he would be able to propagate future generations, and because it's in the context of karbanos, which is associated solely with the Shem Havaya, not the Shem Elokim. That is also why it's Vayomer Hashem, the Shem Havaya l'Noach. Wishing everyone rachamim gemurim and a wonderful rest of the week. Haba aleinu l'tova.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.